Well, welcome everybody. Today we're doing our May Monthly Community Call. Excited to have you all here. We're going to keep it pretty simple today, slightly different format. We're going to be taking a look at the previous month, some of the things that are coming up in terms of events, community portal, which is something new that maybe a few of you had a little bit of sneak peek to take a look at if you were subscribe to the newsletter, which we'll also talk about. And then talking about how to get involved and then really jumping into an AMA so we can open things up for everybody to ask questions, raise ideas, and just have a general conversation around VDAO. So without further delay, let's go ahead, kick this off. Just a reminder of, why we're all here, what the general VDAO mission is. It's really focused on building regenerative network states. It's establishing a community of highly aligned individuals who are all working towards that end. Another reminder of the event cadence. We have a 4-week cadence still in place, and that is week 1, we have our community call, which is this, which is how we kick off our series of events for the month. Week 2 is our Twitter Spaces, which we'll talk about who's coming in for this month, and then our Lunch and Learn, and then Community Voices, which we have had a couple of really great ones over the last few months. We'll talk about that. So look at last month, April 23rd, Twitter Space Web3 funding. That was with Ben West, Tara Stafford, and John Ruth. Really dove into what it is, like what's quadratic funding, why is Web3 funding so important. Really, really cool discussion. We have that available on our YouTube. So please go and check that out whenever you have time if you haven't had an opportunity to watch that. April 30th, we had our Lunch and Learn on drones and land mapping with Chris, which was a spectacular event with lots of discussion at the end. But it was an opportunity to kind of learn what Chris's experience was utilizing drone technology and some land mapping software that's available. And in some instances, some of the software is for free. And he was able to come up with a design that allowed him to capture some of the runoff water and kind of focus that more into a pond for containment. And then May 7th, we had a Community Voices on water conservation and management, which Steve Bonwell was part of, Will Masters, and Michelle Avis. It was a really cool look at how to approach rehydrating arid landscapes through low-tech systems in a really cool pumping system called a bunyip pump, which Steve will hopefully at a later date and time will be able to do like a lunch and learn on that and like really dive deep into what they're doing. And then we also got a really cool look at like how we can take a think globally, act locally approach to an urban scape where we can collect rainwater and do rainwater harvesting and how that has downstream and upstream effects. Again, another video worth taking a look at on our YouTube. So please make sure if you haven't seen that, it's definitely worth taking a look. So what we have coming up for events for VDAO over the next month, we have on May 21st, our Twitter Spaces, Onboarding the Next Billion with Griff Green. He is the founder of Giveth.io and also of General Magic. Very, very talented individual who's knows the space pretty well. He's been around in the space for quite some time. Really interested in diving into how do we reduce the tech barriers, reduce friction points, and improve UX so that we can onboard the next billion. May 28th, we're going to have a lunch and learn with Christoph Hayes. He is the founder at list.io. We're going to be talking about AI and robotic tech for regenerative purposes. They've developed a robot that really can assist in regenerative agriculture, and it'll be a very, very good conversation, a very good learning session for sure. Then we have June 4th, our community voices, which is going to be on regenerative land design. This is going to be with Menno, and we're going to have a special appearance from Rob Avis. Menno's going to be taking a look at his journey through the early stages of his regenerative land design. He's got a parcel of land out in France that they're looking at regenerating, and I think it'll be a really good opportunity to take a look at how people approach in different ways regenerative land design, and then get feedback from Rob to see what he sees in the design and where maybe he approaches things a little bit differently, and like how to look at things in the early stage and then taking it forward into the later stages of the land design. And then on June 11th will be our next community call. Again, some of the ways that people can get involved are the community voices that we hold. This is a virtual event where individuals from our community or the DAO contributors can come and take on a particular topic and really just lean into it. Do a short form presentation and open things up to the community for greater discussion and just learn and grow together as a community, which is probably my favorite thing to do. And so I always look forward to each of the community voices events that we have here. Again, the last one that we had, which was on water conservation and management, was really, really good. It was cool to see Will Masters from Ogallala Life come in, and he was actually out in the field while he was giving his presentation and having his conversation with us and showing us some of the things that they're working on out there, which is really nice. Twitter Space guest suggestions. So we're always looking for more suggestions from the community on who we should have as a guest for our Twitter Spaces, which we do once a month. And even like topics, if there's topics that people in the community want to hear about or learn about or see discussed, please go to the ideas and feedback channel in our server or reach out to me directly or Chris directly, and let us know what it is that you would like to see, who you'd like to see, etc. VDAO Avatars is Pa, which is working on the avatars for the DAO community, and maybe we can talk a little bit more about that later here. Maybe Chris might have a few updates on that. But yeah, we'll definitely talk more. And then regenerative resources, which we will discuss more here in a bit. But that's another opportunity. We're going to be releasing a type form here shortly, within the next day or two, where we're going to give that to the wider community and let them kind of add different bits of content, resources that they think would be useful, that can then be added to our regenerative resources library, which I'll show you in a bit when we go over the community portal. And then become a contributor if you're interested in becoming a contributor at VDAO. There's two ways. One, you can schedule a call using that QR code on the side. Just scan that with your phone or any mobile device. Or you can join the Discord, find the Apply Here channel, and complete the form. Either way is acceptable. And then we'll get you onboarded. We'll go through that process, and yeah, we always look forward to more people joining. And now the VDAO community portal. So it's officially launched today. And I'll kind of go through it here in a second. I'll actually share my screen with you all in a minute. But we'll kind of lead you through what the landing page looks like, the regenerative resources section, guilds and pods, and newsletter. So let me go ahead and pull that up for everybody so we can kind of take a quick look at that. And of course, I highly encourage everybody to also take the time to go and look at it on their own time. The link was shared in the newsletter, but we'll be sharing the link more widely here on both Twitter and in the Discord. So let me switch over to this one. There we go. All right. So this is the VDAO community portal. And at the top, you just have a very basic, 1 to 2 sentences of what VDAO is. You have a drop down section here of how to get involved, sign the manifesto, join the VDAO community Discord, follow us on socials. We do have a Farcaster account now, so recommend you go check that out if you're on Farcaster. You can check out our upcoming events and subscribe to the Luma calendar by clicking here. And then, of course, our YouTube. We also have the quick links here, which is essentially similar to what's over here, except for a few different things. The newsletter is where right here you can click on this and you can go ahead and subscribe to that. So we're going to be putting out a weekly newsletter, and we'll be posting a link to the posted website version after this call in the Discord and probably on Twitter as well. So a couple of things you have here on the landing page for general community information. You have the regenerative living resources. You have our events, so you can click in here. Here's another way to come and view what events are coming up. Actually, this gives you a little bit more forward-looking than the Luma calendar does, as it tells you what's coming up. It may not have all the details, but it'll have at least some of the details available. If you have frequently asked questions, you'd come here. We're going to have a how-to section for like Loom video explainers on, very basic things to help individuals navigate Discord, in some of the Web3 components. Some of the areas that are maybe some of the non-tech savvy individuals might need assistance with. You can come down here, become a VDAO contributor. This is another way in which you can apply to become a VDAO contributor. We'll be on this page, and then you'll just click start, and then you'll fill out the form. It'll be the same form that you'll find in our apply here channel on the Discord. And then if you have any issues, need help, here's where you'd go do that. This is where you'll be able to find DAO members. So each DAO member will be given a spot within the directory, and you'll be able to find out who they are, what they're working on, a little bit about them and their background. And then you also have the in real life events proposals section. You can also find the newsletter here. So there's multiple areas in which you can find different things, just to try and make it as easy as possible for people. And then here is where you'll be able to find that type form as well, for the Regen Living directory. And then this is another type form that will be coming soon. Both these type forms will be coming very soon. Then you have the VDAO guilds in pods section, and you'll be able to see all the guilds and pods, and you'll be able to click into them and see what it is that they're working on. For instance, we could go ahead and take a look at the governance guild. And then so the mission and everything will be filled out soon. Again, this is a very basic system that we have set up, and we really want people's feedback and input to really help guide how this kind of thing grows. And so it's really important that we include the community. It's very important to us. And that is essentially the VDAO community portal. I'm gonna go ahead and go back to the rest of the presentation here. All right. And yeah, now we can just kind of open it up. I know it was kind of a quick run through of things, but I wanted everybody to have an opportunity to ask any questions that they might have, share any feedback on what they saw, whatever it might be. So I'm going to go ahead and make it so that everybody can unmute themselves, and yeah, just go ahead and let's have a discussion.
This is a fairly just logistical question. All of the recordings from the community monthly events are shared in Discord in their respective channels. Or can I find the recorded events?
Yeah, so all previously recorded events are going to be located on our YouTube channel. You
Oh,
will be able to find them also you'll find a link to them in the events section of that page I just showed you of the community portal. So under the events menu tab there, that card, you'll open it up and you'll have a calendar, and I can actually show you real quick. But they'll all be added there, and that raises a good question. I have an opportunity here to ask a question about how would you prefer to see this uh populate in terms of the videos. Let me open it up, and then you'll be able to see what I mean. For instance, the last community voices. Now, when you go in here, it'll tell you what the topic was, who was presenting, um, and then the type of event, the location, if there's a slide deck that was made available, etc. And then the video can either show up like this, where you can watch it in the actual Notion page, the website page here, or another way I was looking at maybe doing it, and I haven't decided which one was best, is to share it as a link here. So in this case, it's a Twitter space, but it'd be the same thing for as a video. Do you have a preference on which you think would be easier to use?
probably the video displayed, but if the link is there, I can find many different ways to serve it to myself. So as long as I know where to go, I'll find it. It doesn't matter to me, to be honest. I'm indifferent, let's say. But the video looks great. It looks very clickable, and I might click on it.
Yeah, to the
Yeah.
point of, I agree, to the point of clickable. Ben, you have another view where there's like thumbnails. And I think for videos, like that's enticing. People can like sort of instantly get a feel for it. I think it's great that you have like here you expand it and then there's additional info because you've got tags. You can look search by category. That as we build content, that's going to be particularly valuable. But in my opinion, in terms of just like getting people engaged and looking at things, that thumbnail view you have in some other areas, I find really sort of inviting.
Okay, that's very interesting. So you think it'd be good to have like a library of just our content that we've created through the video, the events that we've had, and have a library of that available, and then have it sorted by maybe event type, and have it as those clickable cards.
I do, yeah. I was the idea that we were doing that for like outside content and VDAO content would be separate.
No,
I
I can
mean,
definitely see that. I can definitely see that.
like we can find it either way. But it's impressive to me, just like the more stuff that's in there, and then to see, oh, VDAO's done 10 sessions now. I missed, like I was gonna say I try to make all of them, but inevitably things come up. So it's really great to have the recordings to be able to easily, find them and go listen to what might have been missed. But that's just my personal.
No, I think that's a good point. I think it's not as clear as the regenerative resources is. So having another section that is dedicated to our content or dedicated to the events that we've had, the recordings of the events that we've had, makes a heck of a lot of sense. So I'll be adding that to my list of things to do this week and get that done, get that set up. Appreciate you guys raising that for us.
There's also the YouTube channel itself, right, Ben? So if people
Yes.
want to see our content, they can go directly to the YouTube channel and it's all on there with like under each event. But that makes sense that people are on the community portal anyway, for them to be able to go and find the recordings from previous events. One thing we don't currently have on there, Steph, which might be it's kind of related is the video recordings of meetings of guilds and pods and stuff. But we do have a section underneath, like inside every pods or guild card for a meeting minutes, and it perhaps we just save the recordings in there. It's one option. Do you have any thoughts on that, Steph?
Can't, no, I don't. Nothing useful.
No worries. At the moment, the recordings are dropped in the chat, like you said, like or in the channels on Discord. So in each guild chat, there's like the video, the meetings are recorded, and then the link is shared in there for people who can't make it. That's how we're running with that at the moment. But I guess we can also add those videos into Notion too, so that becomes like the hub for all that content.
Can you put the Notion link in the chat right now?
Yep, definitely. Give me 1 second.
You know, something I'm just noticing, I went to YouTube to look for the channel, because, and I think like for all of us internally, if we subscribe to it, that will surface it for other people. And I'm not finding it immediately. I see a short that Mark did, but there's a ton of things. So I just put in VDAO and a ton of other things come up. So that'll be something to think about, sort of like the SEO of our content.
Yeah,
Good point.
I was just gonna say, Chris, sorry, that our current YouTube channel is actually at Join VDAO, which is probably, I think, yeah, you raise a good point about the SEO, because it's probably not like the first thing you would think of when trying to find our YouTube content. Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
I was just going to say the same thing that you said about the join VDAO link. Yeah, I think there are other VDAOs out there with that might have content linked on there. So we're using join VDAO for our Twitter handle. That's basically the handle we're using for all our socials. So if people want to find us, we would encourage them to type in join VDAO, and it should come up then.
Yeah, I'm finding you actually have, like in a Google search, you have to do the @ join VDAO. I did just YouTube join VDAO, and it wasn't coming up very, it was down the list. So
That's good to know.
tricky.
Yeah, we should put that on our list then to look into what we can do about that. So this kind of taps into a question about like our strategy as a DAO in terms of like what we've been focusing on. And so in this first phase, we've really been focusing on providing meaningful content for our current members and going for like the quality of that content and trying to understand what people want. So we did a survey around like what kind of themes people were interested in. Regenerative land design was really high on that list for it in terms of our contributors' wishes. So we've been responding to that. But as we kind of go further along on our journey, as we start having more in real life events, as we start getting out there, we are going to be starting to think more about reach. And these questions like SEO, like how to get the message out there, are going to become more and more important. So we'll be focusing a lot on this in the coming months, I think.
Yeah, smash the like and subscribe button. Hit the notification bell. I think those are the go-to sayings at the beginning and end of every YouTube video, it seems these days. I've seen enough. My kids spend more than enough time on YouTube, so I should know.
What would be the equivalent of smash and like for a permaculture action, like a dig and poke, or like I don't know, water. Water that like button.
Plant your bookmark on yeah, good point.
but not corny. So it's a very fine line.
Plant that cursor firmly on the subscribe button. Yeah, and that's a good point though, Steph. Like, that's something that we've also been looking at is how do we be a bit more fun, a bit more playful, and how do we like incorporate permaculture and Web3 vibe into that kind of funness, because that's something we want to make sure that we're also doing. It's no reason why we can't, learn and grow together, but have fun while we're doing it, right?
100%. Well, big thing's just emergence. So whatever, I'm sure somebody's going to say something, it's going to be funny and sticks, and that's the one. But it's hard to be too strict about. Let's all brainstorm the best way of saying this. So
I like what John just put up in the chat. He says, "Regenerate your YouTube feed." It's pretty good.
Yeah, balance their algorithm with some quality, useful content that will help the planet as well as your interest.
Definitely. Are there any other questions or ideas or feedback that we can take and kind of turn into some action items for ourselves?
Just a comment.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Just a comment that there's always so much to do at the beginning. So like these things like SEO and that, like, so I think, what you've been doing with getting the foundations, like getting our Notion set up, there's a lot of thought that went into that. It's very well organized. That's, and the crowdsourcing we've been doing, like the spreadsheets, and then pulling that in, I think is exactly the right place to start. And then, we build on that.
I saw it was some news that really was inspiring. Some org in San Francisco got an anonymous donation of $100 million to build a housing, a residential building for artists. And it got me to think, like, why, how is someone so inspired to donate to such a cause, right? And it's like, it seems like a lot of the things that inspire people are things that like art, music, all the arts, right? These are the things that have no boundaries. And it's interesting to look at the market, like what is the regenerative market? Who are the people that are trying to become more regenerative, right? And the content that is being fed to them is mostly about permaculture, about homesteading and et cetera, right? But it made me think that there's also like, for example, a music festival attracts millions of people, right? And a lot of those people, especially I would say the younger generations, are into regenerative living. And so I feel like there's this common denominator that has nothing to do with regenerative living, that is something to pay attention to. And since we're looking in like merging the digital and the physical in this space, what came to mind was digital art and music and electronic music. So somehow I keep thinking about this way of like merging that into regenerative living, like music and digital art. And of course, a lot of the NFTs are animated, and the fractal imaging and generative imaging has a lot to do with regenerative. It kind of like emulates, like when you're meditating, right? You see all these fractals, and it's almost like that's what nature is doing, but you can see it in your mind and fast forward. So anyway, just some crazy ideas, but I think in that craziness is where we can find some kind of something that no one else is doing to attract huge crowds. The billion that Giveth is looking for.
Yeah,
Just-
what you're saying really resonates, Al, and it's a shame Mark can't be here today because he's really into this as well, like this whole generative art thing. And it's something that we really want to bring into the DAO in any way we can. There's a few different routes that this could take in the future. I think at this early stage, it's just a case of like ideating it. So we added in this creative corner in Discord where people can experiment with Midjourney. If there's any other tools you think that could be useful to help to kind of encourage people to be more creative and start experimenting with this art in the DAO, I'd love to hear like what we could maybe do to support that. But in terms of where that takes us, there's a few different routes. There's so there's a DAO called Friends with Benefits, and they have Friends with Benefits Festival that they run, where they have like music artists come in, and they have like, so there's like a Web3 theme, and there's music and stuff. So as we move into 2025, once our community is formed, we're really going to be starting to think about longer duration real world events. And I would love to integrate like art and music into some of those events in some way. So that's one route we could take these ideas. The other route is more of a kind of digital art route. There's opportunities to do things on chain if there's that kind of energy and enthusiasm within the community to do something on chain, we could support with that as well, for sure. So yeah, either of those directions is possible. But in the short term, I think the first step is just like getting people creating stuff and experimenting and like seeing what comes out of that process within the DAO at this point. Is there anything you think we could do to make that easier for people or to like encourage people to get into that kind of stuff?
By the way, I just wanted to clarify that. I don't know if I mentioned it, but that building, the 100 million thing, the guy who raised the funds was the founder of San Francisco Jazz. And that's why it reminded me of the music. That was a very important detail in that story. So yeah, it was someone who loved jazz, who most likely that, or music in general, that donated. But yeah, I love the I saw the Midjourney space. It's great. And I shared one with Ben. We were talking about it. I'm using a Promio so I sketch. So a lot of the ideas that I'm developing, I sketch, and then the AI turns it into a pretty cool, a little bit nicer image. So that's what I'm playing with. But I'll play with the Midjourney. I think that's great. I like that idea.
The other opportunity that's around right now is on the VDAO avatar side. So what that project is focused on is developing ecosystem builder animal-based avatars. So the classic example is the beaver. It's an ecosystem builder animal that goes out and it affects its landscape, but creates positive benefits for other kind of biodiversity and other animals in the ecosystem around it. So is an ecosystem builder animal. And these are kind of symbolic of the motivations and the kind of people that we're drawing into VDAOs, people that want to go out there and build in their environment and in a way that generates positive benefits for the biodiversity and the ecosystems all around. So that group, that pod is meeting every 2 weeks, and they're developing these animals, these avatars in quite a creative way. And those will become like the contributor user profiles. So when every new member comes to the DAO, they can choose one of these animals to add to their profile. So if you want to get involved in that, that's also an option. There's a group. I think their next meeting is tomorrow, if you want to join.
I think another interesting thing that you mentioned, Al, was like how the younger generation are drawn to like music festivals and different things of this nature. Um, and I've noticed a little bit of chatter within the community talking about the different conferences that people are going to. Consensus being one of them, Ed City being another one that's going on. I know that ECC is coming up. There's a couple of different various conferences that are coming up, and that's something that VDAO thinks about a lot is which ones do we want to be focused on and potentially engage with and be participating in. And maybe Chris can elaborate a bit more on that even. Oh, Chris, you're on mute.
Oops, sorry. We want to move into the real world event space as a way of just getting out there and spreading the message about regenerative living and regenerative network states. Just having conversations with people, particularly people in the kind of crypto Web3 community, because within the extended kind of VDAO network, we've got there's links with Verge. Obviously, Fifth World is incubating VDAO, and Verge is connected with Fifth World as part of Fifth World as well. So there's a whole community there of permaculture practitioners, homesteaders. This kind of taps into your point that you made earlier, Al, about like the user profile within our DAO, like what's the main user profile. At the moment, we have a lot of people that within the Verge community that come from a permaculture background, and they're interested in the DAO and they want to get involved, and we're open to that. But what we're also very interested in is speaking with people that are like highly online digital builders who are just building like DeFi tools and like other digital tools and not necessarily thinking about the impact on in the world. And they may think like how do I have impact in the world with the products that I'm building? I'm building a blockchain product. So by starting the conversation about regenerative network states, it's opening up a new paradigm within the Web3 builder community. And to be fair, there are a lot of people already out there that think like this. So we're not like the first to come up with this conversation, like Kevin Owocki from Gitcoin, and Griff from Giveth, of course, are already leading the way with this. But we want to be part of that conversation, and we want to invite people into the DAO from those communities and bring together this is really our unique offering, is bring together those people with people from the regenerative ag background and the ecosystem builders in the physical world. Builders in the physical world and could mean anything, like even like home builders, people building solar panel arrays, people putting in wind turbines or water systems, whatever it is. Then the DAO becomes a space for these people to meet, collaborate, and eventually, as we move into the next phase, we'll be encouraging people to ideate and build products and develop ideas and take things to the next level and supporting them to do that. So real world events are key in terms of getting out there, bringing in new people into this space, into the VDAO space. We're looking at Consensus in Austin. We're speaking with a DAO called ATX DAO, there's a contributor in the DAO called Ash who's involved in ATX DAO and VDAO. So we're talking with them at the moment about the potential for some collabs down there. We're really interested in getting involved in the Build Network States event that's going on. That's not confirmed, but it would be great if we could get a slot there. That's still being discussed. And then the next thing that's on the agenda is ECC. That's the big European crypto event happening in Brussels this year. Usually it's in Paris. It's happening in Brussels in the second week of July. I think it starts around the 8th of July. And we're planning on doing a full day of network state programming where we'll have 4 panels plus a series of other unconference style workshops, bringing people in to think about regenerative network states. that's going to be a really important event for us at ECC to start kind of getting that conversation out into the Web3 community about what a regenerative network state is. And I would say that, so we kicked off this regenerative network state thing at ETH Denver with our panel discussion with Joe Lubin. And since then, more people have started using this term. And I would say if we wanted to say that what kind of DAO VDAO is, I would say we're a regenerative network state DAO. I wouldn't say necessarily that we're a permaculture DAO or a regen ag DAO or even a Web3 building DAO. I would say like we are a regenerative network state DAO. Like that's our mission. That's why we're all here. And we're going to use many different tools, permaculture being one of them, regen ag being another, Web3 tools being another. All these tools are at our disposal, but our ultimate mission is to build this regenerative or many regenerative network states. And by that, we mean a global network of decentralized communities all over the world. And yeah, we're working towards that mission. Alongside the ECC and real life events, we're about to release in the next, well, certainly before the next community call, hopefully in the next 1 to 2 weeks, some information about how people can host a local event in their area, in their local area. So if someone wants to come forward within the DAO, and there's a few contributors already in this position, and they want to have a kind of gathering in the park and just kind of hang out with their friends and talk about regenerative living and bring some other VDAO members in to meet up and kind of hang out, we will be offering reimbursement for the cost of setting up that event and supporting people to promote it, supporting people to get people there. And we're starting with this small scale community gathering approach with the goal of eventually building out to having regular hubs in various areas around the world and supporting the local communities to set those hubs up. So all this is coming down the pipeline. All the things that Ben's been sharing today, as you say, John, are just like they're the really important foundational elements that we'll need as we scale this community. And we're really spending a lot of time and a lot of attention on getting these things right and bringing in the key, like I would describe all you guys in this call today as like the missionaries within VDAO, like the people that really just want to see this happen and want to build this out. And we're trying to like focus on what you guys want, what you guys need, and what you guys think we should be doing at this stage. And then once we get that foundation, we'll be ready to start bringing more and more and more people into the community and really start kind of going for more for reach and getting out there more and more. So yeah, this is the current thinking, but happy to, if anyone's got any thoughts or questions about that, I'd love to hear from you guys.
Yeah, I have a thought, Chris. The in real life events, I'm thinking of, how do you get like-minded men of numbers in particular as quickly as possible? And I'm thinking of attaching yourself or piggyback on the attendance of other events, whether it's crypto design courses or other. It does sort of affiliate you with their values and etc. So there's a little bit of not risk, but that's a factor. But I think there is instant numbers there, and there is instant momentum, if that's what you guys are thinking, attaching yourself to things that are happening already.
Yeah, that's a great point. So I would say there's a few different types of events that we're focused on within VDAO. One is side events at conferences, just like you described. So the ECC, the line was kind of breaking up a bit. So I think what you were saying was that I think you were recommending that we tap into other events, whilst also being mindful that we might be associated with the values of those other events. Is that what you were saying?
Yes, yeah, and
Yeah.
piggybacking on the attendance and the momentum there as well as a
Yeah.
means to. the instant
100%.
momentum.
So that's really the main kind of thinking behind the ECC event. So within that, we're tapping into this project called the Regen Village, which has been organized by DAO Brussels. And they're going to fill that out with people who are interested in regeneration. And that itself is already an ECC side event. So there's already going to be a ton of people, crypto people in the area in Brussels. And this venue is 2 minutes from the main conference event. So there'll be a lot of people from that event dropping in. And so we have that audience, and we're going to have a day of programming within that longer village event, which lasts for, I think, 5 days. So we'll have one full day just for VDAO, kind of content and discussions and workshops. And that strategy is one that we're going to be rolling out at other conferences as well, just like you described. The main ones we're focusing on are the major crypto events. So we've got DevCon coming up in Bangkok towards the end of this year. We're really keen to do something there. There's also a few Zuzulu events that we're interested in getting involved in. But I would separate that out from the local events by community members. So with these local events, we're kind of being led by what the contributor or community member wants to do. So if there's like, it's kind of a blank page in a way. Like we want to work with the community to support them to put on events that they think would work in their local community. And so if they want to like tap onto, maybe there's a permaculture event or a regen ag event or a crypto event in their area that they want to kind of organize alongside, then that would be totally cool. And we happily support that. But also, if they just want to have an event which is kind of small in scale, maybe like 10 people or 20 people, maybe 15, I don't know, like very small in numbers, we're kind of very supportive of that. And sometimes the more intimate events can promote the kind of, because we talk about events being high tech, high nature, and high touch. The high touch element is about the human connection, meeting people and engaging and having conversations. So we're not going to put a kind of we're not going to set any high expectations about how many numbers need to be at each local event.
And how about something like having a standard set of resources that, say there's a music festival on and you want to advocate for VDAO and build some interest, having that as a resource base that people can tap into?
Yeah, that's a great point. So Ben, maybe you want to talk about your ambassadors idea that you had? That's kind of related.
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking the exact same thing. So that would be like an opportunity for somebody who's an ambassador of VDAO. And currently I'm having a bit of a thought on how do we structure that? How do we support? How do people become an ambassador? What does it mean to be an ambassador? And like I think in the very basic idea of what an ambassador is somebody who goes out and, as you said, kind of promotes the ideas and thinking and values of VDAO, and carries that along with them towards maybe virtual events, in-person events, just on their own Twitter feeds, in various areas where they're exposing other individuals to the core values of VDAO. So I don't know like what it would look like in terms of support, and this is a conversation that we definitely need to have. But I could definitely imagine that there would be ways in which VDAO would be able to support individuals who have an event going on locally, and providing them with maybe materials or something to take with them in an effort to have a conversation about VDAO and what VDAO is doing with the individuals that are at these kinds of events.
Sounds great.
Yeah, so one of the things I've been working on, which we're gonna release soon, is this one pager which describes the different kind of events that people might host. And this isn't really confirmed yet, but like I'll just share my thinking with you guys, and if you have any thoughts, please share. I'm imagining there'll be different kinds of events that people will want to host in their local area. So our initial focus, I think, is mainly going to be on the social side. And these social events wouldn't have an agenda as such. They would just be like a kind of hangout space. But there will be other people who want to host more educational events and maybe bring in like a guest speaker, something like that. And then there'll be other people who want to host like roundtable discussion events. Those are like the three main categories we're thinking of at the moment. And yeah, the main focus initially is going to be on the social, because we want to really develop that side of the DAO and bring people together in their local communities. But ultimately, I think your point, Steve, is really relevant. Like we want to have a kind of playbook which will eventually become the playbook for developing a local hub, because all of these things are going to be important for local hubs, like having small scale events and having different kind of structures to those events, different materials, then having ambassadors to go out and like talk about what we're up to and invite new people to join and get involved in building the community, and eventually like doing other kind of scaling up from there. And potentially some hubs may actually want to go and get some land and do stuff on that land and like build it out and stuff like that. And we're very open-minded about that, about where that goes. But we're also realistic about like we need to start small. We can't kind of go out and start massive without the community to actually kind of make it work. So we're starting where we are and building the community from the grassroots.
Yeah, I like that.
Sure.
This other thing that I think it was Ben who posted. I mean, that I do need that actually, and I think that's a great way.
Well, perma blitz.
Yeah, I love it. Just like that. Is that did you just coin that term?
It's a thing that Rob's done a lot of in the. Oh, sorry, Ben.
Oh, I love it.
I was just gonna say I just learned about it like a day or two ago, so it was a new idea, but I love the idea behind it. So
I mean, I could do those things like if I could do like 2 of those a week, like I could really advance my permaculture projects where the homeowners do not want to put any, any money on them.
Really? That's really cool,
then we can tokenize that, right? That's one of the ideas that I've been brewing that I want to share more. The tokenizing aspect of it.
I love that idea. I think the permaculture blitz thing is super cool. We don't necessarily have to call it a permaculture blitz, but just the idea of like people turning up at a piece of land and regenerating it within a time frame, perhaps some gamified element to that as well. And in the future, who knows, tokenization could come into that as well. I think that has a lot of potential, that idea. I know we've got our hubs meeting tomorrow, Al, and there'll be other people from the Bay Area. Maybe we can talk about that, like how we can actually.
I have three projects. Like we need that. Like, so I love that. And like we could brainstorm like a template for meetups, for example, to put on meetups.
Yeah.
And find some other tools besides meetups that are effective.
Yeah, it's quite a popular way of approaching things, because like there are people out there that want to learn how to work the land. And if you've got a piece of land and you've got a community, and it's not just like, hey, rock up and we'll get free labor off you. It's like, hey, rock up, we'll hang out and like actually like have a good time and socialize, and you will learn some interesting regenerative ag skills or very basic gardening skills, permaculture skills. So
well, we will tokenize their help.
Yeah, and if there's a gamification and reward element,
real world claim, you helped, and then you brought more people. Another good tool is the Bloom network. So I'm brainstorming what are tools we can use. So I haven't started, but that's one of my plans, like a Bloom network as well. Meetup, Bloom, network. So yeah, and if you guys can share more, that would be great.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I love
Did you
that.
want to come in, John?
Yeah, just one thought on gamification. Like I could see events like that where, organizing, getting people to do a project and maybe having somebody, sponsor it. Like if we can get to this point by this, date, or get this many people, the sponsor will contribute, X either, to that, to something else. So then there's like, you just get people excited, like, oh wow, or, we have a goal, a fundraising goal, or a achievement goal for the project, and various ways to gamify,
And there's no limits. Now that you brought that up, I love it. We could also get like sponsors, like manufacturing sponsors. For example, one of my project needs a rain, like Ben and I and some other and Steve and some other folk in the VDAO, we've been talking about this like rainwater system. So what if we get one of these like rain storage manufacturers to donate, and then we make a big video out of it, and then they get tokenized, they get rewarded to the volunteers, and then so we're not only attracting people that want to help with landscaping, but we're also attracting people that have skills with like carpentry, metal, welding, plumbing, electricity. So of course we have over here, we have in California, we have a tool called Tasker. Of course, that's a payment tool. But somehow, if we can gamify those tools and say like, hey, you'll get $1 an hour, just to make it symbolic, or $5 an hour, whatever. I don't know if that's even legal. But anyways,
If
I'm
it's
just,
a game,
I'm just spitballing.
I love this brainstorming session. I think we should. I know we've reached time, so we'll have to wrap up. But I think we should continue this for sure. Great discussion. I think we've got lots of ideas to take forward from this point. So in terms of next steps, we've got our call tomorrow on the pods. We can continue that discussion there. And we've also got our product ideation session, which is in, I think, 2 weeks. Or actually, no, I think it's next week. So I would encourage everyone to come to that and share those ideas in there. Because I think, yeah, there's some great ideas here. So thanks a lot, guys, for joining.
Thank you,
great
guys.
to see you all. And
Thanks, guys. See ya.
see you again soon.
Take care, everybody.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks. Good to see you all. Have a great day.